To understand what is happening in Iran right now, you have to listen for more than just the slogans. The sounds you hear are the echoes of a breaking point. This isn't just about protests. It's about a system cracking under its own weight, and a future that is being contested in the streets. The question everyone is asking is simple: what comes next? To answer that, we need to understand where this breaking point came from and what it means. Act 1: The Spark and the Fuel. This wave of protests began in late December 2025, not in a political square, but in the historic Grand Bazaar of Tehran. Shopkeepers, traditional supporters of the regime, shut their doors and took to the streets. Their immediate trigger was a sudden, dramatic spike in the price of basic goods like cooking oil and chicken, which followed a government decision to cut a critical currency subsidy for importers. But this was just the spark. The fuel had been building for years. The Iranian currency, the rial, is in free fall, trading at a historic low of over 1.4 million to $1. Annual inflation is above 42%, with food prices alone skyrocketing by over 70%. For many Iranians, an entire month's salary can now be spent just on basic groceries. But this crisis isn't just about Western sanctions. There is a deep-seated belief among citizens that a corrupt elite, dubbed sanctions merchants, profits from this very crisis, controlling black markets and siphoning wealth while ordinary people suffer. This mix of economic desperation and moral outrage is what turned a shopkeeper's strike into a wildfire. Act 2: A New Voice and a Clearer Target. As the protests spread to over 100 cities across all 31 provinces, the chants quickly changed. They evolved from complaints about prices to direct political challenges. Death to Khomeini and death to the dictator became common. Then came a pivotal moment. Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of Iran's last monarch, issued a call for nationwide action at a specific time. On Thursday night, January 9th, videos showed thousands heeding his call, chanting, "This is the last battle. Pahlavi will return." While the breadth of monarchist support is unclear, this provided the protests with a symbolic alternative and a unified moment that alarmed the regime. In response, the government did something drastic. It plunged the entire nation into a near-total internet and phone blackout, cutting Iran off from the world. Experts warn this darkness is a tactic often used to hide a violent crackdown. Act 3: Regime at Bay, World on Edge. The government's response is fractured. President Masoud Pezeshkian, a reformist, has urged security forces to avoid violence and has promised dialogue. He's even initiated a modest $7 monthly cash handout. But he holds limited power. The ultimate authority, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has branded the protesters as vandals and saboteurs serving the interests of the United States. Iran's judiciary has promised punishment that will be decisive, maximum and without any legal leniency. Internationally, the stakes are dangerously high. US President Donald Trump has repeatedly warned, if they start killing people, we will get involved. We'll hit them very hard. This threat has taken on new weight after recent US military action in Venezuela and is believed to be causing hesitation among some Iranian security commanders. European powers have condemned the violence but stopped short of military threats. The human cost is mounting. At least 62 people are reported dead, with over 2,300 arrested. Rights groups report security forces using pellet guns, causing severe eye injuries, and even raiding hospitals to detain the wounded. Final Act: 3 Possible Futures. So, what happens next? Analysts see 3 possible paths for Iran. 1. Option A: escalated crackdown and slow erosion. The most likely short-term path. The regime uses overwhelming force, as it has before, to crush the protests. The internet blackout facilitates this. The streets quiet down, but public fury and the economic crisis deepen. The Islamic Republic survives, but as a wounded, paranoid state, slowly bleeding legitimacy and control. 2. Option B: fracture from within. This is the wild card. If protests grow large enough and the economic pain bites deep enough, loyalty within the security forces, the final pillar of the regime, could begin to crack. Reports of protests even in Khomeini's hometown of Mashhad hint at this pressure. If this pillar fractures, the regime's collapse could be sudden. 3. Option C. A managed transition? Some speculate about a Bonapartist figure, a savior from within the system, perhaps a military leader, who takes charge to stabilize the economy without truly changing the power structure. However, the strong public response to an exiled figure like Pahlavi and the regime's rigid ideology make this path increasingly difficult. The truth is, no one has a blueprint. As one expert told CNN, none of Iran's political leaders have a blueprint to get Iran out of the crisis. The regime's primary remaining tool is coercion. The people's primary remaining tool is the street. The story of Iran today is no longer just about inflation or sanctions. It is a fundamental clash between a tired, rigid system and a desperate, determined population. The coming days will reveal whether the sound of protest will be muffled once more, or whether it will become the sound of history turning a page.